All right, guys, welcome back to Tomboy Official. Glad you're logging in. Glad you're here today. Welcome back. If you're a first timer, welcome for the first time. If you've been here, welcome back. Today the topic is going to be on something that I can't read my writing. So this topic is based off of a recent podcast recording that I listened to by Bad Queer podcast. And it's kind of an update, kind of like queer news updates of like kind of pop culture with queer culture kind of stuff. Anything from like workspaces to education spaces to, you know, what Montero's doing, to discrimination about like ethnicity and LGBT stuff and all sorts of topics. So they have good topics, they have good guests. And this topic that they kind of mentioned a little bit on, so they were talking to someone who was talking about LGBT relationships and intimacy, and they started talking a little bit about heteronormative standards, and I want to talk about that too, about heteronormative standards, heteronormativity, getting away from it, and other topics like toxic masculinity, toxic femininity, how that kind of plays a role too. But heteronormatives, so a little bit of education if you don't know what that means. Like, so if you want to take an example, heteronormative standards would be something like a cis straight couple, cisgender straight couple, cis man and a cis woman in a relationship, and they come up to you and your partner and say you're a gay guy with your gay guy partner. Maybe you're both cisgender, but they look at you both and they say which one's the top and which one's the bottom. That's already kind of a heteronormative standard, because they're assuming, or even more so, they say who's the male and who's the female. Who has not heard that before? I mean, like, either one, right? Who's the top, who's the bottom? Who's the male, who's the female? It's like you're talking to two cisgender guys, asking which one is the female. I mean, that is like, okay, like, just because you're straight people in a cisgender couple doesn't mean that this gay male couple has the same standards for what you do in your gender roles in your relationship. It doesn't mean that because they're two guys and they're both cisgender guys, one of them needs to act stereotypically more doing female roles. One of them needs to be more sensitive and more caring and more gentle and cleaning more and cooking more and wearing the apron. And typically you would assume, at least what we've been taught to assume, that this person would be the bottom. It's like, that doesn't make any sense. Just because you're two guys, that one person has to act like that. Now, if you're two guys and one person naturally has an inclination toward those things, fine. You know, it's fine. It's fine if you want to bottom your little heart out. You do what you got to do. Get it done, you know? Like, that's not a problem. You know, it's not a problem if you're a dude and you want to wear dresses. That's not an issue if your gay male partner wants to wear heels while he sweeps the floor and cooks you dinner. There's no issue with that if he likes to wear glitter and I don't even know what the freaking things are called, like the mascara and the lip gloss and all kinds of things. Like, there's no issue with that, you know, if someone naturally has an inclination towards doing that. But it doesn't mean that just because there are two guys who are cisgender males in a relationship, that one of them needs to act kind of more towards that end and the other one needs to be completely on the other end of some sort of like rules. I mean, I've never really been in a lot of any at all cisgender straight relationships with people. I mean, I've dated cisgender guys that were bisexual. That's probably like the closest thing I've gotten. But and I don't really know if they were like super cisgender. Like they would kind of say it maybe or act more like it, but I knew kind of like in their heart of hearts that they weren't really like fully identified that way, but they would just kind of say it. Like on the surface they would be like, yeah, I'm cisgender, like whatever, if it came up. But like I kind of knew that they kind of had other gender identity aspects to them, but they just never really discussed it openly with other people, I'll put it that way. So yeah, but I've definitely dated trans people. I've definitely dated non-binary people. I've definitely dated cisgender people. But heteronormative standards are these kind of expectations that are placed on all people that are based on this kind of cisgender roles, that males have a certain role in the household, in the relationship, in the raising and rearing of children, in the financial planning, and who's bringing home the money and how much. You know, it's based on this really stereotypical Leave It to Beaver style 1950s kind of looking thing that's like, yeah, you got Ward Cleaver who goes off to work and the housewife is June, and then she's got these boys that they're raising, and they're stereotypical dirty boys that don't really take baths and complain about their baths, and the teenage boy wants to hide his personal dating life from his parents and gets a little uncomfortable talking about stuff, and like has some kind of friends. And I mean, like, it's weird. Like, it's a weird show. But if you've ever watched the freaking black and white version of Leave It to Beaver, which, by the way, there has only been and I think I've seen every episode more than once. I love that show, actually. But I like it for how just like, I like it for how stereotypical it is. That's what I like, actually, is that it's so like presenting to people that this is what a good American family looks like. You have the boys that do these things, and you got the mom that does this stuff, and you got the dad that does this stuff. And when conflict arises, this is how they approach it. You know, they call it belting in the show, like belting. Dad's gonna belt them if they do something wrong, or like, you know, and then like the mom is just cleaning all the time and always home cleaning and shopping and that kind of thing. And it's fine. Like, I have nothing against it. There's nothing wrong with gender roles and like heteronormative standards of things. There's nothing wrong with people having like a heteronormative looking life. I'm not like heteronormative shaming people. I'm just saying, like, a lot of these expectations get placed on us without even us really thinking that, why are they even doing that, like, to us? Why are they assuming these things about us? Like, the first time somebody asked me if I'm a top or a bottom was like the weirdest situation I'd ever had in my life. Because I was thinking about it, and I was just like, that's the weirdest question, first of all, for somebody to be asking you that's not sleeping with you, or doesn't really seem to have an interest in it, or it wasn't even the topic of conversation. And then they just decided, you know, and the other person I was with, I remember they were like, well, you straight people think you can just ask gay people like anything, and that's a private question. And it's like, so that kind of ended that discussion. But during the discussion, when the questioning was happening, I was like, and I'm not bitter about it. I'm not, because like, me and this person talked about it. It's like, people say shit, you know, whatever. I say shit to people too. Like, I'm not innocent in all of this, you know, and all of the assumptions. I'm not innocent in this either. I assume things about people too. One example, okay, I assumed something about one of my cisgender straight friends who's dating a guy, and I think it was his birthday or something that they were celebrating together, and she was like, I got him a bouquet of roses or something like that. And I was like, oh, are you gonna give it to him like when he's alone or like with his friends or whatever? And like, you know, and I was kind of like, in my head, I was like, I don't know this dude, you know, like, so I was just thinking about the guys I hang out with, and I was like, you know, you might want to ask him what he thinks about it, like when you give it to him or something. just because, you know, sometimes guys can have this kind of like macho kind of thing going on, and if your woman gives you flowers, that's kind of like, to some guys they'd be offended, and some guys think it's really sweet. And luckily he thought it was really awesome. I thought it was awesome. I wasn't trying to like discourage her, but the way she was kind of like approaching me like, is it weird? And I was like, I don't think it's weird, but some guys might think it's weird. So I was trying to like say like, you know, don't not give it to him, you know, but just kind of ask him what he thinks about it or how he feels about it. Like, don't just be like, here, and then like in front of all his friends and stuff, and then he might feel like embarrassed, or his friends might like give him shit about it or whatever. So it's like, I don't know this guy. I'm just thinking that that's something that could happen, because I've seen, I know a lot of guys, you know, and a lot of my male friends would not care. They would all be so just like filled with joy and love that somebody gave them flowers. It doesn't matter what gender or whatever. But I don't know. I know plenty of guys that would really be kind of like, oh, like you're giving me flowers and in front of my friends and you embarrassed me and all this. So stuff like that, where it's like, I could kind of tell that potentially this could be a problem depending who he is, what he's like. It shouldn't be a problem. I mean, I'd hope it wouldn't be a problem, but I mean, I don't know. But yeah, back to the thing I was saying. Like, somebody, when they were asking me if I'm a top or a bottom, and I'm kind of like, I don't know how to answer that question. Like, that's not like a question that you can always answer, because it kind of assumes, it assumes a lot, by the way. It's assuming a lot of things, right? So when we even talk about heteronormative standards and you talk about sex with people, right? There's heteronormative sex too. So, you know, that's typically considered like a penis entering a vagina. That's typically what that looks like. Or even like penis and anus kind of thing, or, you know, blowjobs or somebody giving head or whatever. That's kind of that's just like the general, right? Usually males are initiating. Usually males are considered like the dominant one, the one who's topping, the one who's initiating things and kind of like doing all of the labor. I mean, this isn't accurate, but I'm just saying, like, the stereotype is that's what it would look like in a bedroom of cis heterosexual people, that the guy is doing all these things and the woman's just like pillow princess style, just like take me as I am kind of thing. Like, I don't really know. I don't know. I don't really watch straight sex or talk about it much, so I don't really know what they do. But I mean, I think the most of it I've seen is in a grad school class, in a human sexuality class, where we watched a lot of straight porn. Not for like sexual, like, not trying to get people all like horny and stuff, but it was just educational, I guess. We were kind of discussing it, and we all had like different sexual topics that we discussed, that we chose of our own to kind of speak about. So yeah, back to this heteronormatives. Like, it's not only with just gender stuff. I mean, sex comes into it as well. And we all kind of know what the straight cis sex stereotypically looks like. Like, even something like, okay, there's a term that's called pegging, which is like a woman is strapping a guy like from behind, you know, like, so that is considered something that is kind of like, it's not really new, but it's like in the straight world, that's kind of like a newer kind of topic that you kind of see some guys talking about pegging. And like, I mean, it's been going on for like a few years. This topic has been coming up, but I mean, a lot of straight guys don't even admit to liking anal pleasure of any kind, or like wanting it or doing it or experimenting with it or anything. Like, they're just like, no, that makes me sound gay or be gay or seem effeminate or feminine or whatever they think it means. I don't know what they think it means, but that's kind of like what the vibe is behind that kind of thing. And it's like, okay, well, you're kind of missing out then, but I mean, whatever. I mean, if you want to just limit it because of that. to each their own, but I mean, I'm just saying, like, sometimes people have a mindset around things that they're like, I just can't do it. I mean, queer people have that too, you know. There's still, like, there's touch me not studs that are kind of like, you know, masculine presenting females that don't really like to be, you know, stimulated by their partners for whatever reason, and to whatever extent that can vary from, like, anything foreplay related to like sex or being penetrated. There are a lot of females that don't like being penetrated by dildos or any type of sex object or penises or anything. So that's common. I mean, in the lesbian world, that's not an uncommon thing to come across females that don't want you to strap them, or don't want it, or don't look for them, or aren't interested in dicks. That's not like a thing that's not uncommon. But I mean, a lot of people would say, like, well, are you having sex if you're not getting penetrated? It's like, that's another heteronormative standard. It's like, there doesn't have to be, like, penetration involved, but I mean, of course, we're all taught that, like, well, if there's not a penis going into anything, then it's not sex. And it's like, well, if you like that definition, if that works for you, then you do you. But I mean, it doesn't mean that everyone's definitions have to apply to everybody else. I'm trying to think of other kind of, like, sexual related hetero norms. Like, definitely, yeah, stuff in the bedroom. Like I was saying, like, with the top and bottom thing. I mean, typically people ask that to imply that there's one more masculine and one more feminine person, where, you know, I mean, what people do in the bedroom isn't really obvious based on how they present. Like, there can be like two kind of like beefy top presenting kind of guys that, you know, seem kind of like big bear kind of dudes that are like gay guys, and both like bottoming, and both, you know, are more submissive roles, you know, like, and prefer that, you know. It's like, it doesn't really mean, just because you look one way doesn't mean that you like something specific. I mean, just because you're a masculine presenting female doesn't mean that you have, like, all kinds of, like, strap-ons and stuff, and, like, you're going around with, like, you know, fuck everybody with your strap. Like, that's not really how it goes. I don't know if this is getting too explicit. I can't really tell, honestly. I guess the internet will let me know. But, I mean, I'm not trying to be, like inappropriate, but I mean, these are just, it's just, I don't know how else to say it. Like, that's kind of just the terminology. These are the words I use, so I don't really know how else to say it. I mean, that's kind of like the terminology that is culturally appropriate for when I'm talking to people. I mean, if I was, I don't know, it kind of depends on the population, and I don't really know who's exactly listening on here, so it's like, would I talk to my grandparents like this? Probably not. But I mean, I don't know. I think sometimes it doesn't really help too to just use, like, scientific terminology, because then people don't know what you're talking about too. So it's like, I kind of have to use terms that work. Like, if I say strapping, people who know about strapping know what strapping is and what it means. If I start using other words, like, people aren't gonna know what the fuck I'm talking about. So it's like, you gotta kind of talk to people where they're at, I think. And it's hard for me to figure out what that looks like, honestly, because I'm just trying to be real. I'm not trying to be, like, sugarcoating things. I'm not trying to be inappropriate, though. I'm really not, like, a total, like, inappropriate person. Like, I know where to draw the line, but it's kind of hard to know when I don't really know exactly who's listening on here. So I'm using the terms that I would use if I was talking to, like, my buddies and my friends and my peers and the people that I kind of talk to on a regular. This is how I would talk to them about it. Like, I don't have any other method to, like, speak about it, so this is how I'm saying it. So to anybody who might be offended, I just want to apologize, but at the same time, like, I don't know. I mean, if you don't want to listen, I'm not forcing you, so, you know, you can kindly, politely, just, if you gotta go, you gotta go, you know. That's between you and your internet connection. But yeah, all are welcome. I mean, if you're down to hear what I'm saying, like, you know, I'm not trying to be judgmental. I'm just trying to put it out there, tell it like it is. But yeah, when people are saying top and bottom, they're really implying a lot of times that there's like a more femme type of person, more feminine type of personality, and a more masculine type of personality. And that in the bedroom, the masculine type of personality would be the more dominant person who would usually be putting in the work, and then the other person would be more submissive, taking what the other person is doing. And this is not always, this just I don't know, like, why? I don't know, like, in my head, it's just so weird, because I think of it, and I know what people are saying when they say these things, and then I think about my life, and I'm like, none of this applies, none of this applies to me at all. So it's kind of like, I see it, I know it, I'm aware of it, but then I'm like, for example, when my friend asked me that question about, like, are you a top or a bottom, it's like, I can't answer that question, because neither or both. Like, I don't know, like, which one, why would you ask me that? Like, it kind of depends who you're with. And, like, because first of all, I don't just date just cisgender women. If I'm dating all different types of people, then I can't just be doing the same thing all the time. Like, right? Like, maybe I could, but it's like, I'm also diverse in that area too. Like, I don't really mind doing different stuff with different people depending on their comfort levels too. So it's like, if I'm with somebody who wants to be like more dominant in things, I'm not really gonna be like, no. But at the same time, like, I don't know, guys. It's just hard to really explain. But basically, when it comes to those sorts of heteronormative standards with like the top and the bottom and all that kind of stuff, it's like, I don't really know if it really exists. With the queers, I mean, usually you're talking like, if you're two gay guys, two gay cis dudes, some guys like bottoming more than others, some guys like topping more than others, meaning some guys like, being penetrated more, some guys like penetrating other people more. From what I understand, it's not always cut and dry. I mean, there are some people that are like exclusively one way or the other. For people who don't know, if you were the one who is getting things put in your anus, there's a lot more preparation that is involved with that sort of a scenario than if you're the one putting things in somebody else's. So if you're what's called a bottom and you are getting penetrated, then you likely have a diet accordingly, or a douching regimen of some form accordingly, or some sort of shower attachments or water thing that you do to prep for these types of scenarios and situations and fun time with people that you're hanging out with in the bedroom. But I don't really know. I mean, it's just, there's kind of an etiquette to things. Like, it's not like expected necessarily. I mean, it's just kind of like, okay, if you're gonna invite someone over to make out with you at your house, you're probably gonna brush your teeth, right? That's kind of how I see it. It's like, you're not just gonna wake up with your morning breath and be like, let's go. But it's like, if you've known somebody a while, or if you know they don't really care, okay. But, common etiquette. That's kind of how I see things like douching, like anal douching kind of stuff. It's like, if you've never met the person before and you're bottoming, and it's like, kind of common courtesy, but like, some people kind of have like a bit of a pig kind of thing, and not in a negative way. It's just, I don't know what other word to use. That's what it's called. Like, if you kind of like anything like that, if you don't mind fecal matter of some sort, I mean, because that just comes with the territory. I mean, you're sticking things up people's butts, there's going to be feces involved. I mean, it's just kind of how it is. I mean, what are you going to do? That's the only purpose that really it has, is things are either going to come out, or if you put something in it, it's going to, like, unplunge things out of it. Like, that's all I can really say. Like, there aren't that many options. Like, things are mostly coming out of there. So whatever you do, there's usually going to be, like, the gravitational pull for things to be coming out. So either way, stuff is coming out of there. One way or another, right? So, yeah. I would say if a person is I mean, for straight, for if you're a stereotypical kind of straight guy, and you've never been pegged before, this might be for you. You might need to know these things. But you know, if you want your woman to put on a strap and peg you, then you might want to clean that out. But you know, to each their own. You guys gotta talk to each other about that, because that is not really my place. But I can't really tell people what's appropriate and what's not. But it's just like brushing your teeth before you're making out with people. That's kind of how I see it. It's like, you know, if you have time to plan and you have time to do something about it, why not make things a little bit cleaner? But it's like, you know, it's not like a necessity. But you know, maybe you can like figure it out in the shower together when you first meet up or something. Like, you can figure it out in real time. Maybe you don't have to prep. But I mean, what you eat, different things like that is going to affect what happens in all parts of your body. So just be aware. But yeah, so this friend asks these questions, and it's like, how do you answer that question? You know, if I'm not a cis gay male, I'm not really necessarily bottoming for everybody, and I'm not necessarily topping everybody. So what do you say to that? That's all I can really say. If I'm dating different genders of different people and doing different things with different genders of different people, I mean, you just gotta, you know, put two and two together, you know, like it's not clear cut. It's not set in stone. Like, how do you like, do you want me to describe each type of person that I would date in every potential scenario that could potentially come up? And then you can like decide, like tally it up and like figure out like, okay, you're more this side than that side. I don't really think I'm really like more one towards the other or towards the other. It's just whatever we're doing. And you know, if you're not in the bedroom with me while we're doing it, you're probably not going to really know too much about that, but whatever. It's complicated, right? But a lot of people need you to answer that question. They need to have an answer. They need to know if you're more dominant. They need to know if you're more masculine. They need to know if you consider yourself feminine or if you consider yourself submissive. Like, submissive and feminine don't always go together. Dominant and masculine don't always go together. So when we talk about heteronormative standards and you look at heterosexual relationships, they usually have a lot of gender norms that it's not even true. I mean, like, my dad irons, he cooks, he cleans, he knows how to wash things, you know, he's not, you know, he knows how to do stuff. He knows how to take care of himself, take care of the house, take care of your family. Does he work? Yes. Does my mom work? Yes. Does she know how to garden and fix stuff and like use a hammer and all? Yes. You know, so it's like, you know, my folks do have like more traditional gender roles. I don't know what they do in the bedroom, and I really don't ever need to ever want to know that. But now I've gone some other level that I don't even know how I got there. But anyways, yeah, I'm trying to think of other heteronormative standards. Like, yeah, if you think about, I mean, definitely clothing style is one. The presentation of your clothing is one. Like, I said this before that, you know, like, I was at work and they were kind of, I wasn't at work. There were like maybe a couple days I took off at a job I had, and then like when I came back, they're like, oh, remember, women have to wear like skirts and pumps and pantyhose, and then like the guys have to wear like a shirt and tie, because like it wasn't like a completely casual environment, but we all like, we would go to like work in like a, you know, like a plain t-shirt or like a polo t-shirt and like, you know, or just something nice and kind of clean cut looking with like jeans, like fitted jeans or something. That wouldn't be uncommon for people to dress like that at work. And so there wasn't like a strict dress code. You didn't have to wear like dresses and skirts and ties and business suits and stuff. But I mean, a few people did, and most people kind of just dressed for comfort, but within cleanliness and a little bit less than like if you were gonna go play basketball. Like you would kind of dress up a little more than that, like as if you kind of dress like you were gonna go like meet your friends for dinner, kind of like what would be appropriate for that kind of thing. Which in my opinion is anything. If you're comfortable, that's fine. But I mean, yeah. But that was something that I, in that work environment, it was like interesting to see them be like, you guys wear this, y'all wear that. And then I was kind of just like, I've always just been like, people never, like, they kind of know, like, don't really tell me what to wear. It's never been like an outspoken, like, up front, like people are like, your dress code, you're not wearing you're not wearing a lady's shirt, or you're not wearing a blouse, or you're not wearing those sneakers, even though they're pink, they look like men's sneakers. People weren't really like, approaching me like directly like that. I just think so long as I was dressed within like the standards of expectation, nobody cared if I was wearing a skirt or whatever. Like, people weren't really pushing it. So when it came to a day like that, I just wore whatever I would normally wear that would be a little more dressed up than what I would normally wear to work. And then that was it. That was the end of the conversation. Like, people knew by the consistency of what I wore that it wasn't like a thing that like, and they're respectful about it. And it was kind of funny once one of the interns was like, and I think it was one of the interns that was like, yeah, like I was told I can't wear sneakers to work, but you wear sneakers like all the time, because I was like a full-time staff at this point. And I was like, yeah, I kind of have my own dress code. It's like, I wear sneakers, but they're like bright pink, like sneakers that I only wear for work. Or like, I'd wear sneakers, but they were like really cleaned up sneakers. And like, what are they going to tell me to wear heels? I mean, like, they couldn't really say that. So it was kind of like, yeah, like I did stuff, but like, I was still within the limits of like I wasn't trying to like make waves or anything. I was just trying to come in and do my job and wearing comfortable clothing. I wasn't like trying to make a statement or anything. But then if I was the person who kind of switched it up more, I wonder how that would be if I did wear dresses on occasion, and then sometimes I came to work in a tie. I think it might actually have been harder in that environment for me, or for anybody who did something like that, because I feel like, I'm not saying don't do it or that it's wrong or anything, but it's just like, I think a lot of times, a lot of us have hetero normative standards in the workplace. Definitely it comes up. You use gender bathrooms a lot. Like, when we moved to a new building at one of my jobs, a big thing was, we do have trans clients that we work with. And so which bathrooms are they going to use? And the rule was, okay, because our old site had just like single door stalls, like you would open the door, and then when you lock the door behind you, you were in there by yourself in the bathroom, and anybody could use we had 2 bathrooms in the back and 1 in the front that was like that. The new place had 1 bathroom in the front that was kind of like any gender, and then 2 bathrooms, one was males with urinals and the stalls, like multiple stalls, and 1 was females with multiple stalls. And so the rule of thumb was, if somebody was a trans person and they wanted to use the restroom, they could just use whichever restroom they felt comfortable with. So that was one of the rules. Or, but like, I mean, it's still one of those things. It's like, that is the rule, and that was the rule of thumb. But then it's like, if one of your male clients is in the bathroom, and then one of your male trans clients comes into that same bathroom, and you're a male clinician and you see this happening in front of you, and it's kind of like, what's actually going to happen? You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, yes, these were the rules. It was great that they had this rule and that the discussion openly happened, that we kind of had a scenario. Well, we had an answer for it before it happened. But yeah, there are definitely heteronormative standards of dress codes. Like, if you're female, you're supposed to dress a certain way according to work. Or if you're male, you're supposed to dress a certain way according to work. A lot of people say this too when you're going on interviews. They don't even know you. So it's like, if you're a woman and you're showing up in a suit and tie, you don't know if that's going to help you get the job or hinder you, right? If you're a guy and you're showing up in lipstick and heels, you don't know if that's going to help you or if it's going to hinder you. I mean, it really depends on the environment. And then once you get the job, so people, the rule of thumb a lot of times, and I can't tell people what to do, but people say, you know, wear what's going to get you the freaking job, and then wear what makes you comfortable when you get the job. And that makes sense, but then it's like, that can also create another issue. It's like, if they wouldn't have hired me wearing a tie, and then I decide I want to wear a tie every day when I'm working, and now it's going to be a problem because now we're going to have dress code violation issues and all these conversations and all this kind of bullshit that you have to put up with when it's stuff that doesn't really matter. I mean, in all honesty, this stuff doesn't really matter. You know, it doesn't really matter as to, you know, what people decide to do and wear. If you're not being disruptive, if people can still work equally as well as they could when you were wearing it versus when you were not, yourself included, if it's not getting in the way of your work with the people you work with, you know, if it's not getting in the way of your performance, I don't see how, you know, people can't just look at it and be like, okay, well, I'm just prejudiced and I think I'm uncomfortable with this. So be uncomfortable then, damn it. Like, you deal with it yourself if you're uncomfortable with it. Like, don't put that on somebody else. It's not your place to put it on them. If you're a boss, that's not your place, you know? And then these sites are missing out on people too, when they're just like looking at them like, that woman came in, you saw her wearing a tie, you know, it's like, okay, well, don't hire that person. They could have been the best person for that job and done damn well and been way more committed and loyal, but you're overlooking them, right? And so if there are any straight people out there, cisgender people out there that are listening to this and you're a boss, pay attention. You know, like, just pay attention to how you think about things, how you look at things, how you view the world. And when you have people who are different that are walking through your doors, pay attention to if you're treating them equally. And yeah, a lot of us might have different rules applying to us because we're different, right? So, like, you know, not everybody can just do whatever they want whenever they feel like it. But it's like, you know, sometimes the rules need to fit in a way that, you know, different minority groups can kind of still fit in to the workplace without being discriminated against because of their differences. So when we talk about heteronormative standards, I hope that made sense. Getting away from it is definitely, like, we don't need them. I mean, anyone, I don't know. We just have so much more variety to us. I mean, I think cisgender straight people do too. I just think a lot of times they have these expectations on them. Like, in a way, it's like, it's kind of easier for me to be kind of like a queer female. I can wear whatever the hell I want. Like I explained, I can wear what I want. Nobody's going to tell me don't wear it. Nobody's going to be too concerned about what I do when I do it. I'm just, you know, doing my own thing, living my own life. But it's tiring. It's tiring, guys. It is tiring. But it's definitely good to look at, you know, how to get away from the standards, because you're going to see the standards popping up and you're going to see people placing the standards onto you. Like I mentioned, people asking if you're a top or a bottom, or I'm not saying that's an appropriate question, but it's like people will ask you things or assume things about you that you don't even know, like, where the hell they're assuming it from. And it's like, what impression did I ever give somebody to make them think that I would be strictly a top or strictly a bottom? What impression did I ever give to somebody? You know, like, what about me makes them think that I would fit in a category? You know, like, what is that? You know, like, I don't see anything that, like, points me out like that. But they felt the need to ask, and maybe they were confused by it. I don't know. I'm not confused, but I mean, I think sometimes a lot of us confuse people, and it's not your fault if you're confusing people. It's their fault because they can't understand things because they've never had to think outside of their way of thought, outside of the standards that are presented to us through the media and shows like Leave It to Beaver and other stuff that we see out there, and terminology and questions that you hear. Like, if somebody asks you if you're a top or a bottom, or if somebody starts talking about, like, the women are going to wear this and the men are going to wear this, it's like, well, what if you don't identify as a man, or what if you don't identify as a woman? What do you wear? Like, you don't want to mess up and do something wrong, and then it's like everything was going right at work, and now I have to deal with this stupid thing because I wore the wrong thing because they didn't account for my gender. It's like, so now what do I do? It's like stuff like that, where you're just like, you kind of just get left out, and you just kind of have to figure it out yourself sometimes, and then you can't really ask anybody, because then it's like, now it creates this weird conversation. Who wants to talk about their boss about if they're wearing pantyhose? It's like, what the fuck, like, that's a weird topic, for me, it would be weird. Like, I don't think I would want a boss approaching me being like, this is what kind of underwear you need to have, or whatever. It's like, I know what kind of underwear I like. I know what kind of underwear I wear. I don't think I need my boss telling me what to wear. If I have a girlfriend or a partner and they have a comment on my underwear, then I will gladly listen. But anybody else, I'm just wearing what I'm wearing. Like, I don't know. Most people probably, unless you see like the waistbands of my underwear, you probably don't really know which ones I'm wearing. I know my mom knows, because sometimes she takes my laundry out of the dryer when I'm home doing laundry, and I usually come in and I'll throw my laundry in late on a Friday night, and then I'll try to sleep in a little bit and on Saturday. And then if she's going to church, she'll wake up and maybe throw in a load before church or something, and then she needs the dryer, and she'll be nice and fold my clothes and not wake me up, and she's really sweet about it. But it's like, I know you folded my underwear out of that dryer, like, and she'll nicely place it on my sister's bed, and I'm like, yep, you saw it. Like, I know you saw it. Like, I know, like, whatever. We don't need to talk about it, but whatever, it's like, but things like that, it's like, weird shit like that happens, your parents find your underwear, all kind of weird stuff, and then you're just like, okay, like, I don't want to explain this to anybody. And like, to me, I feel like my parents, or anybody who's known me for a long time, you probably aren't gonna be surprised by too much. I don't know, like, I don't really place too many identities on myself, but it's like, I think I kind of toe the line with a lot of stuff, and I think a lot of people kind of know that I don't really fit neatly into any of the boxes. I don't fit neatly in the black box. I don't fit neatly in the American box, or the African box, or the any kind of box. I don't fit neatly in the box for people my age. I don't fit neatly in the box for people my gender, or for sexuality things. I just have my own box that it's an open box with it doesn't even have all the sides to it, guys. It's just an open square that I just chill in, and I decide when I want to pop in and out of it. Like, that's basically what my box looks like. It's a box with no walls. And a lot of us are like that, but it's just kind of weird, the stuff that comes your way when you have a lot of different things that a lot of different people don't understand. And sometimes it's like hard to know, do I educate these people about myself and about people like me, or do I let it go and tell them to fucking Google it? Like, where's my role in this? Like, I'm the rude one if I don't want to answer your intrusive questions. You get offended if I think that I need my privacy on this. You need me to have the energy to answer all this stuff that you could just easily Google by yourself, or look it up on the internet, or ask some different person, or ask me at a different time, or ask me in a different way. Like, it's just all this kind of weird stuff that comes up, right? We haven't even started talking about privilege, but we're just talking about just like the normative standards that we see. The more I talk about it, I hope it becomes kind of like apparent that like a lot of the stuff that we're taught, or that we're told, or how we're raised, or how people talk to us about stuff, there's a lot of these norms in our society, and I'm totally missing a lot of them. But workplace, church, if you go to church, or formal events, weddings, things like that, it's like, oh my gosh, like, God forbid you don't come in a dress, or like whatever. It's like, the last 2 weddings I went to, I didn't wear a dress. and one of them, well, not the last two, but two of the, I think I went to 4 weddings in the last few years, and I know 2 of the, well, 3 weddings in the last few years, and I think a 4th was like a long time ago, but it seems like it was more recent, I guess. But yeah, I wore dresses for the ones that I had to, and then, you know, because it would have become a whole family event of like drama if I didn't for one of them. It's like, people just don't understand. And then I had a queer friend, a queer wedding I went to. So it was a trans male friend of mine marrying the gay girlfriend, fiance. They got married. They had a themed wedding, like a 50s themed wedding, and I just kind of wore what I wore. And then I did definitely get some looks from people. And then at my best friend's younger brother's wedding, family friends, these people are like family to me. That's the first time I didn't really wear a dress around them, and they kind of saw, and they was like, okay, like they kind of get it. When my friends do get married, I mean, we kind of have an understanding that I'm not going to wear shorts. You guys, I'm not going to fucking wear shorts, okay? But they said I can, and of course it has to be like formal attire, but I'm not going to wear shorts. Don't worry. I'm not going to wear shorts, okay? Like, I think that's people's biggest concern at this point is like, dude, you got to wear pants and like dress shoes. I know, I'll do it. Like, I'm not going to wear a dress. Don't make me wear a dress, but I'm going to dress up. I'm just not going to wear a dress, okay? So we got that clear. But it's kind of funny how they were like, don't wear shorts. It's like, I know. Yeah, but getting away from the heteronormative standards is very complex because they're all around us. I mean, I honestly don't notice them a lot until somebody mentions it to me. That's the honest truth. Like, sometimes I'm like, wait, I don't fit that, or wait, people are assuming this thing about me. Another thing that kind of happens in my world is, and it might happen to other people too, I'm pretty sure. If you're, like, I wouldn't say that I'm really like a masculine presenting female, but I'm definitely not feminine presenting. I think my personality and kind of just like my emotional state and just kind of the sensitivity I have. I mean, I can be pretty direct and a little bit like straightforward, but at the same time, I'm a very sensitive person, and I'm very in touch with my emotions and things, and like, I'm not ashamed of it. I think it's great. But, you know, a lot of times if I'm dating a female that maybe has never dated females before, they kind of get a little weirded out by that sometimes, because they're like, oh, like, if you cry or something, or if you're like, you like showing an emotion, and they're like, oh, like, you're supposed to be like tough, and it's like, dude, I'm a girl. Like, you know, it's like, fuck, you know, like, I'm not a man. Like, I don't feel any need to act like a man. Like, I'm not trying to be a man. I don't think I'm a man. I don't want to be a man. But I think it's just confusing for a lot of people who've never dated females that aren't like super femme. And then it's like, you kind of, like, a lot of people kind of expect people like me to be more masculine, and with this kind of masculine idea of like, guys don't cry and all this kind of stuff, and it's like, dude, that's not me. Like, I'm a sappy, sensitive person. Like, I will not even pretend like I'm not. Like, I totally am. But I mean, I can have a bit of a tough exterior a little bit, just because like I like people to kind of stay in their lane. I mean, I get a lot of shit from people, like, just because I am kind of, like, calm and a little bit, like, on the sensitive, shy side. I think people like to fuck with me because of it. Like, they kind of like to get a rise out of me, and just kind of, like, I get that a lot. People like to tease me a lot, and, like, I don't find it, like, bullying. I just think sometimes people just want to make you laugh, or they want to be sarcastic because they want you to, like them, and then they want to like joke around a lot and stuff. But then sometimes I'm like in a super serious mood, and I'm like, I'm not trying to be fucked with right now. But man, it's just a lot. But yeah, I mean, if you've never really dated a lot of different types of people, if you're kind of a more masculine presenting person and you date a person who's expecting you to be like masculine to the fullest of the mask level of masks, you might get a little bit of people being a little bit confused by that, and that's not you, that's their fault. They need to kind of notice that, you know, I can have a lot of variety to myself, right? You can have variety to yourself and do you, and you don't have to worry about if somebody's feminine or masculine or whatever the fuck, like, but yeah, it's just interesting how that does happen too, where it's like, even if I'm dating a female that knows that I'm a female, I've only really experienced this with people who haven't really dated a lot of females, and especially when it's like questioning women or like straight women that are just like curious or something. I don't mind going out on a date with them or whatever, but then they're like, they'll expect you to pay, or they'll expect you to pull out their chair, and they'll expect you to be all like the chivalrous person, where it's like, dude, I'm a chick, like, I'm not paying for your dinner, and I'm not doing that, and I'm not doing this, I'm not holding your door, and I'm not, you know, like, I'm not saying I'm like rude as fuck or anything, but it's like, some things just don't cross my mind. It's like, I don't know that you're assuming that I'm gonna do this, because I'm not a man, and I don't have people assuming that I'm gonna do these things. So it's like, and then like, oh my gosh, you don't even want to talk about in the bedroom with people who don't even, that's just the whole thing. Like, when people assume that you're going to take like some kind of role just because of how you present, that is the most awkward fucking shit that you'll ever come across, probably. So I would say, if you're going to be like fucking people, you probably want to talk to them about it if they seem a little confused, because it gets way more confusing when the clothes are coming off and you're kind of doing things with somebody who's just kind of just like not really knowing what the fuck is going on, and they're expecting you to be doing all these things that you're just like, what the fuck, why did you expect this? Like, it's just all this stuff that just makes zero sense whatsoever, and you're just trying to like navigate it, like swimming around, like just kind of like, it's like you're trying to tread water in the middle of like a foggy swamp or something, and you're like, I don't know how the fuck to get out of here. Like, that's basically what it's like. It's like, I don't know what the fuck is happening. But yeah, that's something that happens too, is like the heteronormative standards that get kind of placed on you by people who are coming from the heteronormative world and aren't familiar with all this other stuff, the queer stuff and the different type of diverse stuff, and they don't know about it, and they don't know how to navigate it, and they don't know how to talk about it, and they don't know what does and doesn't exist, and what's realistic and what's not. I mean, if you've never had sex with women before and you're just starting, then welcome. Welcome you, but it's different. I mean, it's going to be different than having sex with guys. So, I mean, like there's this episode in the L Word, like way back, spoiler alert, with Shane, where she's dating this, I don't remember what her name was, but she was dating, like, Shane is like a more kind of masculine presenting, kind of like soft mask kind of fuckboy kind of chick in the show. You don't really see her in dresses and stuff, but I mean, she's hot, like, let's just all admit that. But she's great. But there's this chick in there that was like interested in Shane, started getting interested in women by noticing her crush on Shane, and then she was like, I want to like be intimately, like physically intimately involved with Shane, and Shane to be like, they wanted to have sex together, and Shane was always down pretty much to have sex with anybody. So like, Shane's like, are you sure this is what you want to do? I think her name was Maggie, and she's like, yeah, I'm sure this is what I want to do. And then I think there's a part where Shane took off her shirt or something after they'd been like making out for a while, and then Maggie's like, you have tits? And it's like, what the fuck? Like, it's like, yeah, dude, like, she's a chick, like, what the fuck? And then like Shane's reaction was even like, really, like, seriously, you're like so immature, like, it's like, but it's just stuff like that. It's just like, really, is that really? Yes, that's something that happens, guys. Stuff like that happens. It's like, what the fuck? Like, I don't know, what the hell? I don't know, man. People are weird. But people get stuck in these cycles of what they're aware of, what they notice. I mean, our brains automatically do this to us, and it's not fair. I mean, part of it's the brain. The other part is that we get overwhelmed. Another part of it is that some people never look out of the box. And then another part of it is some people never challenge things. So just all these things combined, you know, with the way that the brain just kind of like likes to get like a natural, quick, fast answer. So if I see A, then that equals B. That's kind of like how the brain likes to operate. Otherwise, you're sitting there like, if I see A, then it could potentially be B, C, D, E, F, G, or 1, 2, 3, 4, X, Y, 4, X, 6, or whatever. Like, there could be multiple combinations, not just A equals B, right? So, or input A, output B. Like, it's just like, it's not always cut and dry. It's not always super clear, but I don't know, guys. Hang in there. It's hard. It's hard. I mean, toxic masculinity and toxic femininity comes up too. I mean, every gender, every group of people has a classification of what's toxic. So, masculine traits that could be toxic are definitely things that are like higher, like aggression. Feminine traits that can be highly toxic, the kind of like emotional manipulation. I'm not saying females do all this stuff or that it's like heterosexual people or whatever. I'm just saying like there are certain traits that are like toxic, right? Where it's like, if you are more masculine, there are still these stereotypes that'll be placed on you, or these things that you'll see people do that are masculine presenting that feel like, I need to act like this so that I can feel more, so I can be more masculine presenting, right? Which is kind of a hard place to be in, but I would say like it does come up. Like I don't really feel like I have to be that way necessarily, but I can see where the pressure for that kind of comes up, because like if I'm like not really dating, but like say for example, sorry, I don't know what's up with my sinuses, that's why I sound like this, but yeah, something that's happened to me before is like I've been in a group of my with like a bunch, like a straight friend who's kind of like an ally with her straight friends, a lot of like blonde, straight, cis, hetero women, and we're all hanging out. I'm not straight, I'm not hetero, I'm not blonde, and I'm not like discriminating against them. I'm just saying that was the crowd that I was kind of hanging out with, and this was like, say it's like a party of some sort, and I'm hanging out there, and I'm with all these chicks, and like we're vibing, and then there's some dudes there, but they're like these gay dudes. And then one of my friends, she's the one throwing the party, and she was being a little like aggressive towards me, like a little bit like sarcastic and like kind of picking on me about stuff. And that was kind of like, okay, that's kind of like the space where you kind of feel a little like I don't know, it's kind of weird. Like, this person kind of treats me differently in different settings. When I'm alone with them, they seem like things are comfortable, like things are polite, like things are nice. But I kind of notice that when I'm out with them, with other people around, they get a little awkward, and I think they just get nervous and just freak out. And I think just because the way I dress and the way I am, and she's probably told her friends that I'm gay. So I'm pretty sure they know that, like, hey, she's going to throw this party and she's going to invite all her straight friends, her gay roommate, and this gay female friend of hers. And so I was kind of just hanging out with friends, just chit-chatting, just talking. And then, like, my friend kept coming over, making these, like, sarcastic remarks about, like, oh, you're going to do it like that, like, or you're going to do it like this. Like, kind of like, it was almost like this toxic masculinity that she kind of tries to kind of do when I'm kind of with her friends. And I think she's just uncomfortable with the situation. Like, I don't understand why. I never ask her about it. It's just how it is. I just know that's how it's gonna be. I'm just like, what the fuck? Okay, here we go again. But like, I mean, I get it. It might be awkward for her. She might not want her friends to think that she has any kind of like affection towards me or whatever, which is fine. But I mean, like, you still don't have to like act that way. But it's like, I feel like she kind of tries to overcompensate, almost like in like middle school, how people kind of overcompensate for like how I don't want this person to think that I like them, so I'm gonna pull their hair kind of thing. Or like, I mean, nobody does that, but I mean, like, you know, just like the teasing and all that kind of stuff was just like, Jesus, like. But I mean, like, I was just like being just like my little sensitive self, and just like, I wasn't like upset by it, but I was just kind of like, I'm not gonna like give into this and like respond to it. But I think she was trying to get that, kind of gets out of me kind of like this kind of wanting to be more like in a dominant kind of role and be like, look, you know, because if she was like, I don't know, if she was like if she was like a partner of mine and I noticed something like that, I would be a little like, okay, like, I don't know, I kind of like partners to treat me a certain way, you know, and especially if it's like in public, I'm very kind of like, okay, like, you know, like even like, it's kind of like weird stuff, like even like if I'm on a dance floor, I don't really like you know, women trying to like come up behind me and stuff. It's like, that's kind of weird for me. Like, even though, I mean, I don't really care. Like, bedroom stuff, I don't really care. On the dance floor in the middle of public, that's kind of a different scenario, you know? Like, I'm kind of a little more like, okay, like, it's just kind of like weird for me. Like, you know? But I mean, I don't like hate it. It's just something that's a little weird for me, that like, if I'm with somebody and we have this conversation, I mean, that would be kind of a bit of a conversation where I'd be like, I kind of maybe don't like you dancing with me like that, you know? It's kind of like, there's certain things that I prefer. So it's kind of the same thing, like socially when I'm talking to people, it's kind of the same thing that I would say I prefer, which is, you know, respect from people. And I don't have any guy friends that are very insensitive to, well, maybe one. But I mean, I get it, because he comes from the same kind of space I do, where you're kind of like always on your defenses. Like, I totally get that. I'm not saying he totally gets a pass, but it's like we come from the same like religious background and stuff, where it's like, yeah, that religion fucked us up, so I kind of get where you're coming from, and you're still trying to like understand your way in the world after this whole thing too. So I get it. And I kind of have an understanding with him about it too. So it's like, we kind of get each other on that level. But when it's somebody who's like a female that's coming at me, that's trying to make me like feel a little on the defensive, that makes me want to actually react with toxic masculine traits. I'm not saying I do it, but it doesn't make me want to be like more sensitive. Or, you know, like, if somebody did hurt my feelings in a situation like that, I wouldn't be more likely to be like crying about it. I'd probably just express anger and just verbally say some really like not so nice thing to them. But it's like, it kind of brings that out of me, like not that I want to or that I can't control myself, but it's just like, that's kind of like more like kind of what it would bring out of me. Like, I don't think I have a toxic masculinity, but I can see how people would be kind of like you know, pressure, like feel the pressure towards being that way, especially when you do have kind of like your own kind of gender presentation and your own like gender stuff that you deal with, and your own preferences for certain ways people treat you and ways people are. Sometimes when things are coming up, it's like, I feel like I want to like react in this certain way, and it might be toxic. But it's like, you might feel more inclined to react one way versus another way, just because of that would be your comfort level, right? Like, I'd be more comfortable reacting this way versus that way. In a protective way. It's kind of like a defensive thing, but like, everyone has their protective defenses, right? And then, yeah, if there's like emotional manipulation going on, that's more like a feminine toxic thing of like, I'm gonna like cause this drama and make you feel bad for me and like cry to get my way and like all this kind of stuff, that's just kind of like, goodness, you know, like, people do that too. So, I mean, I know guys that have toxic feminine traits too. I mean, I've seen it where it's like, you know, they, you know, and I've seen straight men who date very authoritative, like kind of like dominant women, and then they're really sensitive straight cis males that, you know, kind of have that dynamic where they have like the toxic femininity, and they're kind of like manipulating the situation and like crying about a thing that's happening and making their female partner feel a certain kind of way, and she's over there like yelling at him. And it's like, I've seen this stuff like with my own eyes after church before, where I'm just like, whoa, like, what is happening? But yeah, when I think about it and I look back, I'm like, wow, like, yeah. But yeah, and then like all the kind of stuff about like, you know, how guys can't cry and all this. I mean, like, that's bullshit. I mean, like, I don't know, like, I think I mean, because I've heard that when people go on testosterone that they maybe don't cry as much. I don't know how accurate that is, so don't quote me on that. Don't hold me to that either. I'm just saying, like, you know, like, I think there was an episode in the L Word where there's a trans guy in like the first series of it, where there's this trans guy and he was in the process of transitioning, and during his transition he was like in like a group therapy for like trans guys, and they were all kind of talking about their struggles with it, and he was like, yeah, like, as a trans guy, I'm kind of like, you know, like, I just wish that I could just like cry or something, like, you know, like, because it's like harder to cry with the testosterone. Like, I think for women it's easy for me to cry. If I want to cry, I can just do it. Like, I could do it like on demand pretty much. If I really felt up to it, I would totally just, I mean, I'm not saying I would do it to manipulate people, but it's like, I can make myself cry, like, easily, like, in a heartbeat. Like, it's not that hard. Even if I'm having a great day, I mean, if I can force it, I can make it happen, like, without even any, like, physical pain. I can just easily just be like, let me think about this certain thing, and yep, I'm gonna cry. Like, it's just, like, that's just kind of how it is, like, you know, so, and I think crying is like a helpful thing for people, just like pooping and vomiting. If you need to do it, just let it out. But you know, like, I think that there is a way that it can be really kind of like not healthy. Like, I used to have a friend way back that, like, she would monopolize the entire hangout whenever she showed up and start crying about her exes. And we weren't even drinking. Like, we would go to, like, boba shops and stuff, and it was just, like, embarrassing. I'm just like, here we go again. Like, she, like, and I had a friend that, like, really liked, he was a guy friend. He was, like, really into, like, these deep emotional conversations. So whenever she would show up, which was usually later in the time, you know, of the rest of the group hanging out, and this one lady would show up, and then the other guy would be like, how's Bobby or whatever, this other ex, you know, and she'd be like, oh, and start like crying about him. And I'm like, why the fuck would you ask her about him? You know, she's gonna cry every time. Like, we were having fun, you know. It's kind of like, and there's nothing wrong with her crying, and there's nothing wrong with him asking about her emotions, but it's just like, there is a point where it's like, okay, if you're just gonna cry every time you come here, it's like, you know, we're just trying to hang out and have fun on our weekend and, like, you know, blow off some steam and catch up with friends and have a fun time. It doesn't have to be just, like, some tearful session every time. And, like, if people are sad, if people are depressed, yeah, it's fine to cry with your friends and stuff. But, I mean, I think it's a whole different thing when it's, like, you come in just to, like, monopolize the whole thing and get your emotional needs fully met, and then you just leave. And it's, like, she would just cry to whoever would listen about her exes, and it was always about these same exes. And I was like, oh my god, you know, like, and I just was like, it was just so annoying. I was just like, because you can't just be like, dude, we're in the middle of like talking about like what sports we're gonna play Sunday if you want to meet up at noon, and she's over here just like crying, and it's like, we were in the middle of something, like, you know. But I mean, like, I don't know, whatever. But we were like young. I was probably like 20 or like 17 or something. Like, we were like young. But yeah. But toxic masculinity and toxic femininity doesn't necessarily have to be, your assigned gender at birth, or if you are transitioning, it doesn't necessarily have to play a role there either. Or if you're non-binary, it doesn't really have to play a role. Anyone can have toxic masculine or toxic feminine traits regardless of your actual gender. Or if you don't have a gender, that's fine too. You can still have them or not have them. It's kind of like just the way that we navigate through society socially and in relationships. It has nothing really to do with like your actual gender. But I do wonder if because I've heard about like roid rage and stuff like that. Like, I'm not just picking on people with like testosterone, but it's like, like there are different things that might promote more kind of like, energy in certain different directions, depending like if you have more or less testosterone or like more estrogen, or, if you have like a menstrual cycle and you have like PMS, or like, I mean, guys have cycles, males have cycles too, but it's like you're usually, it's different, but I don't really think I have too much more to say about this, but I hope that was helpful. I feel like on the heteronormatives with like sexuality and like sex acts with your partners or whoever you're with, I feel like there's something there. I feel like there's something kind of like deeper to things that maybe I just didn't really address, but I'll see if I can put a finger on it. But it just seemed kind of like I was maybe like missing something. I mean, it's easier for me to talk as a female person. I don't really know what it's like for gay males too much, other than the friends I talk to. I don't know too much what it's like for them to date other gay males, or other people of other genders. I don't really know what that's like for them. Like I said, I feel like I can get away with a lot. I mean, and there is that kind of like female kind of like flexibility with like, you do get a bit of a privilege with like who you date, because I think with females we can be a little more flexible with things without people being too prejudiced about it. Like, yeah, there's definitely the discrimination, but I feel like if I did the same things that I do as a guy, I think that I would get pretty I think I would get discriminated against a lot, actually. But yeah, I don't think I have anything else to say. Or maybe I should just stop talking. I probably have plenty more to say, but for right now, let's just leave it at that. But yeah, as usual, you guys, thanks for listening.